But I'll tell you what's funny. You know, like I said, he worked with all these non-Western people like Betty Davis and all that. He enjoyed that. But really, his main love was being up at Iverson's Ranch with Wild Bill Elliott you know, Johnny Mack Brown and Tim McCoy and all those.
You are the cowpoke! You are the cowpoke!
That's not a nice way to act, son. Why don't you like cowpoke?
When you're growing up and you're a child star, you're either treated badly, like Robert Blake said he used to be, or you're embraced and are cast in film after film after film, like Robert Winkler was. He was a big Republic child star. He was in some of the Hal Roach Little Rascals, and his son is following in his footsteps in the business, not as an actor, but as a producer. We have William Winckler here with us right here. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for inviting me. My God, all these classic people that, you know, Dad worked with Roy and with Gene and with Wyatt's grandfather in Sullivan's Travels.
Tell us about Sullivan's Travels. That your dad.
That was that's considered one of the top 100 movies of all time by AFI. Sullivan's Travels with Joel McCrea. It was a Preston Sturges film, and Dad had an incredibly memorable scene with Joel McCrea racing this race car when Joel McCrea's character was trying to escape from the Hollywood studio elite, the producers that were following him in this van. Many of you probably have seen it, and it's a classic. But Dad got into show business around he was born in 1927, and he started very young when he was like 6. And I think they came to Hollywood around 1935. And Charlie Chaplin's wife, Mildred Harris Chaplin, wrote a letter of introduction to Hal Roach Studios, and that's how my dad got into the business. But he worked in over 85 films and hundreds of radio shows with nearly all the stars of the golden age of Hollywood. With the Westerns, it was, you know, Gene Autry, Roy Rogers, Wild Bill Elliott, Bob Steele, Johnny Mack Brown, Tim McCoy, Bob Livingston, Bob Baker, George Houston. I mean, I could go on and on and on.
You are the cowpoke! Get off of our land! You are the cowpoke!
That's not a nice way to act, son. Why don't you like cowpoke?
It was really remarkable. I don't think that there was a child actor who worked with so many cowboys, and they were the biggest stars in the world at the time. There was no internet, no YouTube, no television, no DVD, if you wanted to see a movie, you went to a movie theater to see these people. And Roy and Gene, take any star today and multiply that star power by 100 or more. That's how big these people were at that time, because the audience was not, distracted by all these millions of different ways of entertainment. So, it was an incredible career he had.
How long did it go for him as a child star?
Between the ages of like 6 to 20. And then he caught the tail end of World War II and then got involved with that. And then his parents wanted him to go to college and he could pursue the acting afterwards. And he became interested in law, and he became a successful entertainment attorney with his sole proprietor, with representing people he worked with as a kid. And he turned down so many jobs. I mean, all the television stuff in the 50s, he said, no. He was signed to a 12-picture deal with Johnny Mack Brown. Johnny Mack Brown was getting too old to play having the romantic stuff. So he did the first picture, but didn't do the other 11. But, like George Montgomery, Dad did a movie with George Montgomery called Last of the Duanes. And then, later in life, he represented George Montgomery as an attorney. We used to go to his house for Thanksgiving. I mean, George Montgomery was this big giant, as a kid, I remember shaking his hand. It was like shaking a bear claw, It just was. I remember Dad and George were at this event, and the food was not so good.
Did Dinah cook?
And no, he'd been divorced from her a long, long time. But I remember Dad said to George, "George, this food wasn't so good, was it?" And he said, "Well, Bob, it'll make a turd." typical cowboy stuff, right? But George Montgomery, Dad was, when you look at the character of John Wayne, and Dad worked in Ronald Reagan movies, and Reagan was the same type of guy. When I met him, same type of thing as George Montgomery. They were all those guys of that era had that same that same outlook on life, the philosophy of life, the patriotism. They were all, I guess having gone through that era, they all had a lot in common, So.
Well, it was the Depression era when your dad became a child star.
That's right. It was the Depression era, and he was really doing well. I mean, he like I said before, he was doing very well at that time when, it was a complete disaster during the Depression. But Hollywood, let me tell you something real quick. My grandfather had a bookstore called Winkler and Son Books on Hollywood Boulevard. That's where it was a meeting place for actors, and all the stars would hang out. But I remember my grandfather saying this, and my grandmother, that Hollywood Boulevard, there was no smog, there was no graffiti, it was very clean, people were dressed up, people were friendly and nice. It was a very elegant, glamorous time. Okay, and that was the era when my dad worked at all those glamorous things at MGM. He worked with Bette Davis and Laurence Olivier and Judy Garland and Shirley Temple and all those people. He didn't work in The Wizard of Oz, but he was running around the Wizard of Oz sets and stuff and was impressed, seeing all that stuff. There were no miniature golf courses, or Disneyland hadn't been built yet, so he couldn't believe how great that was. But
so he did well during the Depression.
Yes, he did. And radio, you could go in the 1930s, you could go to a movie house and you could see a cartoon, and Bobby Winckler was doing the voice in this Merry Melodies Looney Tunes cartoon. And then they'd have like a specialty, Pete Smith specialty, and Dad would be in that. And then there'd be a serial like Daredevils of the Red Circle or some Republic thing, and Dad was the kid in that. And then he'd be in the Western, and then he'd be in the A Picture. And then when you went home and turned on the radio, he'd be on Edward G. Robinson's show on radio, or he'd be on, he'd had multiple jobs in one day, sort of like, how Judy Garland was working all the time.
Wow, the residuals must be astonishing.
Zero. Nothing. That was it. He didn't mind. It was, but I'll tell you what's funny. Like I said, he worked with all these non-Western people like Bette Davis and all that. He enjoyed that, but really his main love was being up at Iverson's Ranch with Wild Bill Elliott and Johnny Mack Brown and Tim McCoy and all those guys.
So what did he tell you about working with those guys?
Oh, what nice people. Oh, how nice. They treated him like he was their son. I literally, and the comedy relief guys, Smiley Burnett and Raymond Hatton and Ruth Davis and Fuzzy Knight, all those guys were great. And the villains, Roy Barcroft and Glenn Strange and Ed Cobb and Tom London, they were all, Dad used to talk about Ed Cobb, how funny, he was. And some of those horses, Dad rode on some famous horses. You talk about the Lone Ranger with Don. It was, Silver Chief was a horse that Dad rode in one of the movies, which was the Lone Ranger's horse in the serials, and was also Charles Starrett's the Durango Kid's horse. So Dad even worked with famous horses, But he loved the Wranglers. He loved wearing the clothes. He loved shooting off the guns. In one of the pictures, I think it was a Bob Baker Western, where a bad guy was up on a roof and he was going to shoot Bob Baker, and Dad saw him and had a rifle, and he's 10 years old, and he blew the guy away, and he flew off the roof, Today, you wouldn't have seen, with political correctness, you wouldn't see a kid blow up some guy off a roof and put a hole in his stomach, to save the guy, good guy. And Bob Baker probably, oh, thanks a lot, Bobby, that type of a thing. It's crazy,
So the transition then, when your dad became an attorney and you were born, and the people that he would hang out with, like Adam West, I think.
Yeah, he had a lot of, he represented so many actors and stars and celebrities and people in the business. It was really remarkable, you know. And there were a lot of fans too that would contact him. It was funny. He had a very successful law firm, and I remember, like in high school, when I graduated from high school, I'd sometimes meet him for lunch, and I went to go meet him at like noon, and I talked to one of the secretaries. I said, "Where's my dad?" And she said, "Oh, he's in with a client." I said, "Really?" She said, "Who?" I don't know who he was, but okay, fine. So I just sat down waiting for him to show up. And then this guy comes out of the office, says, "Oh, thank you, Mr. Winkler. I'm so happy. It was so wonderful to see you." And he's all nervous, and he's got 100 pictures of Wild Bill Elliott and Bob Steele, Johnny Bear, all signed by my dad. And he leaves, and I said, "Dad, who was that?" He says, "Oh, I don't know, just a fan of my old pictures." That's how he called his movies, my old pictures, you know. So I said, he had 1 million pictures there. He says, "Yeah, he's a nice guy, kind of goofy. So where do you want to have lunch?" That was kind of how he. Towards the end of his life, you know, my dad passed away of cancer in 1989, and the last couple of years, he got invited to go to some of these things, and he got a kick out of it. He thought it was a lot of fun. Like Richard Band was at the Hal Roach reunion, where Hal Roach was like 100 years old, and Dickie Jones was there and couldn't believe, oh my God, Bobby Winckler, and there were little smaller roles. Like I said, Charlie Chaplin's wife got him into the business, and he did those and got a kick out of them. That was the era with Spanky and Alfalfa and Darla Hood and
the great years.
Yeah, and you know, like they'd have a scene like in Our Gang Comedies. I remember my dad telling me that it was a nightclub scene, and instead of having the kids drink cocktails and alcoholic beverages, they would have ice cream. But because of the hot lights at the time, they couldn't use ice cream, so they used cold mashed potatoes with chocolate on it. And he said it required a lot of acting skill to be able to sit there and eat. These potatoes are delicious, you know.
Good. So tell us about your career now.
My career. Well, it's very interesting. I work as a writer, producer, director. I've written, produced, directed about 52 film and television projects. I am a work-for-hire studio writer, producer, director, but my studios happen to be in Japan. I work for Japanese animation studios and Japanese film companies, and I have a English dubbing company where I produce American English language versions of all those films. So I've done famous anime, Digimon, and other series and such, and there's a huge fan base for that. I mean, LA Anime Expo gets 30,000 young people that know about cartoons I wrote, 30 years ago. So I just finished one called the new feature film for Ultraman. Ultraman is a famous science fiction superhero character from Japan, created by Mr. Eiji Tsuburaya.
Is it live action or animation?
It's live action, and it's created by the man who created Godzilla. Mr. Eiji Tsuburaya created a superhero character in the 60s, and it's a major franchise brand, and I just did that. You know, it's interesting. When I started doing animation, my very first series, I had my dad do a voice in it. It was before he died, and he did a great job, and he went straight into it. He'd been an attorney all these years, and just immediately, boom, was perfect. I never had to, direct him on how to do it.
Great. Bill, thank you for being here today.
Oh, well, thank you for inviting me. It's fantastic.
Great story.
Folsom Prison after serving 15 years of his sentence. His name is Harry Crowell, but he chooses to call himself 39013, his old prison number. The man is insane. There's no telling what he will do next.
Which is no excuse for your repeated failures to capture this man.
Everything is being done, Commissioner. The man is just not to be found.
But he's got to be found. Every few days, another Granville interest destroyed. I want this man captured. If you have to tear down the city brick by brick.
You're rapidly evening up the score against the man who sent you to prison, 39013. 5 of the 9 major Granville enterprises have been wiped out so far.
The score is a long way from being evened yet, Doctor. When I get through with Horace Granville, he'll be entirely ruined. Read me the list of the Granville properties remaining.
There's the Granville Amusement Center. It represents quite a lot of money.
Amusement Center, eh? That's it. It'll be next. The Granville Amusement Company.
Hurry, 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 friends. It's the big attraction, and it's absolutely free. See the daredevils and their triple, death-defying, hair-raising, world-famous stunt. Introducing the 3 daredevils of the Red Circle. Number 1 is Planet Awesome, ladies and gentlemen. By himself, my friends, and without assistance, he will support that 80-foot ladder during the death-defying routines of his brother Daredevil. And number 2, ladies and gentlemen, is Gene Townley, world champion, professional high diver, and all-around athlete. Thank you. Gene carries a flare. Now that flare will be lighted when he reaches the top of that ladder. And third, but not least, ladies and gentlemen, that famous escape artist, Bert Noel. Strapped in a standard-approved straitjacket and with his feet chained together, this young lad will be hoisted head downwards to the top, the very top, ladies and gentlemen, of that 80-foot ladder. The second that he starts up, ladies and gentlemen, that flare will be lighted at the top of the ladder. The flare burns for exactly 2 minutes. There he goes.
Well, hold your hat. Here I go.
Dollar says you don't make the tank.
If I don't, you're going to look awfully funny back behind that soda fountain.
Yeah? There he goes.
How we doing, Sammy?
That was a pit, Gene.
Now, the next show, ladies and gentlemen, is at 8:30 tonight. Come on back and see us. Bring your families. Tell your friends. And remember, the time is 8:30 tonight.
Hello? The next show starts at 8:30. Allow 12 minutes before the flare's thrown into the diving tank. Yeah, the flare's always burning when it hits the tank.
Get aboard the fuel boat at the harbor. My men on the pier will signal you when it's safe to approach. I want that diving tank emptied and refilled before the second show.
Okay, it's empty. Close the valve. I'll go and signal the boat.
Pull in under the pier and we'll pump this stuff up into the diving tank.
Watch this. Curve your back a little more. Like this. You see, it's balanced first. And strength afterwards. How's that? Oh, cut it out, Debbie. Cut it out. I'll show you a lot of things, Sammy. You don't want to end up just another high diver like, your brother.
That's all right, but there's more to life than picking locks and getting out of straitjackets.
Unless, of course, you want to land in a bug house at an early age. Don't forget, Sammy, it's brains that count.
What do you want to be when you grow up, Sammy?
Well, first I want to be as strong as you, Tiny. And then I want to be as fast as Bert. And then I want to have a lot of brains, like Gene.
Attaboy, Sammy, you have the right idea.
And now, little brother, soap and water, and plenty behind the ears. Catch?
Me catch.
Yes, I'm ready. Get to the police station.
Chief Landon.
This is 39013.
Trace this call.
I'm destroying the Granville Amusement Center tonight. You've got exactly 10 minutes.
Hello. Hello. Broadcasting station.
Calling all cars. Calling all cars in the neighborhood of Granville Pier. Ready?
I don't know, but it's a cinch we can't get down the ladder.
We'll both have to slide.
Get going.
Thanks, pal. Nice going, boy.
Forget it. Where's Sammy? Come on! Sammy! Sammy!
Are you all right, miss?
Yes, but the boy!
We gotta get him to the hospital, quick! You're gonna be all right, Sammy. The doctor says that in a couple of days you'll be as good as new.
Sure I will, Gene. I feel good.
And remember, when you grow up, you're going to be as strong as Tiny and as fast as Bert. Remember?
Yeah, I'm gonna have a lot of brains like you, Gene.
What is it?
It hurts.
Doctor!
I sympathize with you for your loss and understand your motives in wishing to work for Mr. Granville. But unfortunately, we're not hiring any new men. Even if we were, they'd have to be experienced in detective work.
But we can do a lot of things.
Yeah. All we want is a chance to get on the trail of 39013.
I'm sorry, boys, but this present case is more of an intellectual job than a physical one. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm very busy.
This way out, boys.
That's all very well, Mr. Dixon. But we still like to see Mr. Granville.
Hey, you mugs. You're wasting Mr. Dixon's valuable time.
Come on, Tuffy.
Why, it's the Daredevils. They saved my life at the pier. How's the youngster?
Sammy's not with us.
Oh, I'm so sorry. If there's anything I could do...
Thank you just the same, miss. We had planned on seeing Mr. Granville, but apparently he's a very difficult man to get to.
Then there is something I can do. You shall see him at once.
You mean you can arrange it?
Certainly I can. I'm his granddaughter. Come on. This is as far as we go. Grandfather's doctor and private nurse, and sometimes Mr. Stanley, as secretary, are the only ones who ever go beyond that glass door.
Well, why is that?
Hello, Jeff. Let me speak to Grandfather. Jeff's the nurse. You see, Grandfather had a mysterious stroke while on a trip. He's better now, but until he's completely recovered, he keeps everything sterilized and never leaves this part of the house.
Well, how's he manage his affairs?
You'll see. Hello, Gramps. I've got to see you a moment. It's terribly important. All right. I'll be right out.
Blanche, who are these men?
I told you about them, Gramps. These are the men who saved my life at the pier.
Oh, yes, yes. And for that they've earned an old man's gratitude. My granddaughter is very precious to me. And for saving her life, you only have to name your own reward.
We didn't come here to get a reward, sir. We didn't come here to get a reward, sir. Because of 39013, my little brother lost his life. We've sworn to do everything we can to find him. We thought that by coming here and cooperating with you, success would come a lot sooner.
Your wish is most certainly granted.
Yes?
Say, I'm putting 3 new men on. They'll report to you right away. See that they're given comfortable quarters so that they may work from here as a base.
But we...
Now, if that meets with your satisfaction, you can go and see Mr. Dixon at once, and he'll take care of everything.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, Miss Granville.
It's little enough. Thanks, Gramps.
Blanche, dear. You remain. I want to talk to you.
I'll see you later. Morning, Doctor.
Morning, Miss Granville. How's the patient?
Can't complain, Doctor.
There's considerable excitement going round over 39013's threat to destroy the Channel Tunnel. This paper says that public fear will ruin your venture, even if 39013 fails.
Well, this is one time that fiend will fail. There's nothing he can do to harm the tunnel. Every precaution has been taken.
But the public doesn't realize that.
Well, something must be done to inspire public confidence. Otherwise, the tunnel will not open. Blanche, dear.
Yes, Grandfather.
Would it be asking you too much to be the first to ride through the tunnel? Of course, if you're afraid,
Oh, I'm not afraid, Gramps. I'll be there.
Oh, that's the spirit, Blanche. I knew you would. I'm ready for my treatment, Doctor.
Dr. Malcolm,
Yes?
may I speak to you a moment, please?
Well, 39013, you've got your wish. The hateful granddaughter will attend the opening of the famous Channel Tunnel. Tell Dr. Malcolm to meet me here. Some more reading matter for you, my friend. Come here.
I hope you're satisfied, Crowell. I'm going mad.
Mad!
You're going mad. You wait till you've had 15 long years of it.
One of these days, Crowell, you'll make a slip during your fiendishly clever impersonation of me. Without thinking, you'll speak in your own natural voice and be discovered. You build no hopes on that score. When I wear this mask, I am yourself. I make a point never to speak in my own natural voice until this wig and mask are off. This cell's a duplicate of the one you sent me to. How'd you like it? You never thought of me, did you? Well, I thought of you plenty, waiting for the day when my chance would come. Well, it came. I escaped from prison. You took that trip. It was almost too easy. The papers played up the gag that you'd had a stroke. But I was the sick man they brought back to this house. Your very own home. Why, even your granddaughter failed to see the change. How you can be so cruel and yet lives beyond me.
You'd best pray that I continue to live, Granville. If anything happened to me so that I failed to come down here and refill this reservoir, the water would drip entirely away. And when the reservoir became lighter, and these lethal gas capsules would break up on the floor, the gas would kill you in a very short time, Mr. Granville. So you see, your life depends on nothing happening to me.
I'll get it.
Hello? I'm sending you with Sheffield down to the Channel Tunnel tonight. I want you to keep your eyes open and patrol it thoroughly from now until the ceremony takes place tomorrow. Meet Sheffield at the garage in 5 minutes.
Okay, we'll get right down there. Get ready. We're leaving for the tunnel. What is it, Tuffy?
What do you make of it? Some kind of a warning, but what's this red circle stand for?
The red circle's our own symbol. That's right. Whoever wrote it must be looking out for us. We'll get down to the garage and meet Sheffield. Stay here, Tuffy.
Here we are on the air to bring you a word picture of the opening of the $6 million Channel Tunnel, connecting sunny Santa Alicia Island to the mainland. The air is tense with excitement, ladies and gentlemen, as the tunnel is being opened in direct defiance of threats that it will be destroyed. Crowds of people are being kept back as a safeguard against any eventuality. The public knows that the elusive, malevolent 39013 has never yet failed to carry out a threat. But in contrast to the ominous circumstances surrounding this event, it's a beautiful day. I'm going to try to give you a picture of the setting. From the promenade adjoining the tunnel's main entrance, I can see across the channel to Santa Alicia Island. Seems an incredible distance for men to tunnel, following a curving straight-up rock below the ocean's bottom. Off to the left is the Granville oil well, actually standing out in the water, pumping oil up from underneath the sea. I see Chief of Police Landon, ladies and gentlemen. I'll try to get him to answer a few questions for us. Pardon me, Chief Landon, but do you believe this 39013 has any chance of carrying out his threat to destroy the tunnel?
I think it is the idle boast of a madman.
Thank you very much, Chief Landon.
Chief Landon's right. Your threat to destroy my tunnel is the idle boast of a madman. There's no way you can do it.
You're drilling an oil well off the coast, very near to where the tunnel runs beneath the passage.
Yeah, it was through that well that the rock strata was discovered that made the Channel Tunnel possible.
Now take a look at this. My men in control of well number 1 has been drilling an offset for the past 3 weeks.
Blanche Granville has just arrived, ladies and gentlemen, with a full police escort.
Blanche? What, you sent her there? Why, you...
My little surprise. She went gladly on your behalf.
Reached the shell. Cut her off until they start into the tunnel. Okay, shut her off.
What's the matter?
I just heard a strange noise. Seemed to come from overhead.
Something suspicious?
I don't know. Stopped suddenly.
Well, I guess it couldn't have mounted to much. I'm rounding up all the men. You better get out of here now. The ceremony's due to start.
Yes, sir. I'm going to use your phone, Al.
I wouldn't use that phone if I were you.
You're not me. Hello, hello? This phone is dead.
Well, wait a minute. What's your hurry?
Look, I was supposed to take orders from you, but from now on, I'm doing my own thinking. There's something wrong back in that tunnel, and I'm going to find out what it is.
Call the guards! This man was going to try and wreck the tunnel!
Hey, what's the idea? I'll meet you at the mainland entrance.
Okay, start her up. It's going to time perfectly.